Hey, all you Cloud Striders. This is Error Code Blueberry. It's an unassuming Destiny podcast. Lightfall is now upon us. My name is chillybin.
Meckii.
We are recording this literally the day after Lightfall came out. You and I have both completed the story.
We were both up until 1 a.m. doing it.
1 a.m. for me, not as late for you. Daylight savings is dumb. So fairly decent spoiler warning for this episode. We are going to talk about the story and Lightfall and everything we've seen. I took the day off work and probably played for I started just after 6 a.m. I didn't go to bed until 1. I didn't do much else. I'm going to say a conservative 16 hours. Maybe less because I had to go cook dinner and walk the dog. So 14 hours maybe. So we've seen a fair bit of it. So if you're planning to play it, you care about spoilers, that sort of thing, put a pin in this video, come back to it after you've seen some of that stuff for yourself. But other than that, now that we've got that out of the way, we're now in the spoiler zone. Let's get to it. So, I don't even know where to begin with this. It's been a while since we've had that kind of
two pieces of content prior to launch, which was the music VDoc.
Yes.
And then they announced the raid.
Yes. The music VDoc, I think we touched on it right at the end of the last episode of
I said I wanted one and they gave it to me.
It'd be so sick. We haven't seen behind the scenes music stuff in a while. And then it's 6.5 minutes of them showing how they, their recording process and how they do all this shit with the music and synths. And I got to see some cool instruments and equipment. And it was just very neat.
It was everything I wanted. Thank you, Bungie.
Yeah.
I manifested that.
You sure did. Yeah, I can't remember anything that jumped out at me that I'm remembering now. Probably because of yesterday.
A whole bunch of very talented people making very beautiful music.
Yeah. I think the thing I've remembered most, probably more because I work in software. I play music as well. And have a mind for process and things like that. But the way that they described it of what they call the process striping, where they'll record a section of an orchestra at a time. So woodwinds, brass, strings.
Yeah.
So that they can basically dial up or down different parts of the music in the game, or in response to game events, or for cutscenes, they'll use different parts of it. And that's very cool.
I thought that was really interesting where they're typically you would expect to see a whole orchestra recording a song. We don't do it that way. No. And here's why. And I was like, that makes sense for what they do with music.
Yeah. Yeah.
When the tormentor grabs you, it all pulls away.
Yes.
When you're in the, we'll get to it later, but when you're up in that section with Nimbus, it's just a sick drum beat.
Yeah.
Everything else pulls away and it's just some dude some human going fucking nuts on a drum kit. Yeah. I love it.
But yeah, any kind of music production for video games is always really weird. Watching the stuff about, how Mick Gordon's music got used in Doom, where they've got all the stems and they were because you could be in a battle arena in Doom as long as you want or need, they'll pick sections of the track that they're able to loop, and then when a certain event happens, they branch into the next bit of the song or a different part of the song, and they've got similar sort
Destiny
of ideas.
Does that with boss battle music, where it slowly builds the further you get through the phases.
Yeah. So it was just very cool to see that.
I'm happy.
Yeah. And then, we got a tweet from the Destiny, the game account, a few days before Lightfall release of here's an image with the new raid name and kind of a, I don't know, setting of, the classic big vista with the 6 guardians in silhouette down the bottom kind of image. I tried to look closely at it. What it seems like is there's that kind of darkness architecture style in the background, but there's like some other weird like spirally shit in the foreground in front of it and around it.
Kind of planty things.
Yeah, like I think I put in the notes like it looked reminiscent of the Tree of Silver Wings from Season of Arrivals, like when that was growing and kind of it's that weird metallic tendrily looking kind of stuff. So I got no idea what's going on there. But maybe there's also some additional kind of lore flavor bits that'll get dropped in the raid, like we got with Vow of the Disciple, right? That's where we fleshed out a lot of like the witness and what a disciple is, and kind of like a bit more of what the witness's deal is.
I want to make another Meckii prediction.
Oh, okay.
I think the boss might be Nezarec.
Yeah, okay.
Might be Jam Jar.
Yeah, there are moments from the campaign and the associated strike on Neptune that I can see it, but we'll get to that when we kind of work through the story here in a minute. But yeah, the new raid drops next weekend, so like
the 10th,
11th of March. I'm busy that whole weekend basically with a friend's wedding, so I'm, I don't think I was going to commit to a day one attempt again this
we'll
time.
Try week one.
Yeah,
we'll at least get the reward.
Yeah, whatever the like ring or jacket situation is, that's usually like first week and a half, so it's not the reset after launch, it's like the one after, so you've got a full week and a half. So I want to try and get that done, because that's at least like the tradition, I guess, around here of, get whatever that sweet reward is, or at least get the option.
It's out of frame, but my DSC jacket in the background.
At least get the option to buy it and then look at how much shipping is going to sting me and then make some decisions.
Sit on it until deadline.
Yeah.
Panic buy.
Well, I'm in that awkward spot now where like a lot of the Bungie store shipping timelines or shipping estimates rather are like in the 3 to 6 month range. And like the later part of that window is maybe when we're looking at moving house or like starting to look into that process. So just with like when our rental lease starts to wind up. So I'm in that awkward spot of like, fuck, which address do I put down? I guess I'll put this because I've had to do address changes in the past with Bungie Store and it's been fine. But it's just a thing I'm going to have to start keeping track of like, where have I placed orders? What's the status? Like, when are they likely to come through? And that's always a pain in the ass of like having to send that message of like, hey, all these order numbers, depending on how many things I've got waiting on, can you update all the addresses, please?
As someone who used to move every 6 to 12 months, I learnt the benefit of a parcel locker near my place of work.
Yeah, I've thought about that in the past as well. I mean, like in past jobs, I've just had shit sent to the office, but I don't go into the office much anymore, so it's not as useful. Cool. So that's all we know about the raid. We've got date, we've got name. The stuff.
Did we say the name?
No, we didn't. It's correct me if I've got this wrong. Root of Nightmares. Which is pretty grim and twisted.
Nightmares.
So a lot of the times, at least, and this is common, I think, in a lot of Destiny groups and clans, is like you come up with shorthands for talking about, hey, let's get a group together for a Nightfall or a raid. So you might say, hey, who wants to do a cheeky DSC? Who wants to do Vow? Are we just going to be calling this one
Ron?
Who wants a root?
Who wants to do Ron?
I think that's worse somehow. Like I like at least we're being honest when we say who wants to do a root, who wants to get a root. I think that's probably the phrasing. Who wants to get a root?
Who wants to root?
Who wants to get a root in? Because it's how like get a cheeky DSC in, get a raid in this week. I want to get a root in this week. Always trying.
Who wants to get a root in Saturday morning? Like a married couple with kids where you have to schedule it in.
Yeah. LFG, one coital partner. Just
Destiny online dating. Oh, that'd be fun actually.
No, some like a lot of people just take it way too seriously.
Around.
Yeah, that
I
too.
see some of the names around. Oof. I know there's some people on par with the level of scuffed my brain operates at.
Yeah. Gosh.
Looking at you, Scrumbo.
Scrumbo. I forgot about Scrumbo. I don't think we screenshot that guy. Oh my God, Scrumbo. That's not even like a rude word. It doesn't mean anything. Just
shout out to the homie, Scrumbo.
I think you and I were both at that point at least like 8 to 10 hours deep in our playtime and came across Scrumbo roaming around Neptune. It was just the funniest thing.
Billie Jean from Michael Jackson was another one that sent us.
Billie Jean from MJ, just jumping around doing shit.
Shout out to Bill Slingin' Poo, by the way, too. It was just we were at that time of night where like the only people who were still online
fucking
were
degenerates.
Unhinged enough to have those names.
Yeah, and this is one of the weird things that we've kind of found having some folks from other parts of the world in our server is like you will find entire cohorts of names that are in like a North American server that you just don't see here. But we'll get like very local references, like some Red Rooster meal deal, just like is someone's name, or like Bunnings references and.
Look, Dad's 2002 Toyota Corolla is one that I've seen around a lot lately.
Yeah.
Specifically Dad's 2002.
Yeah. Yes.
I'd have to make mine Hyundai Excel.
Yes. Hyundai Microsoft Excel.
That's another good one, is when people name themselves after programs. Yeah. So you just get Microsoft Word as here.
Yeah. I did see someone, like, I think this was last week, saw someone who had equipped the title Scallywag and was just also called Scallywag, so it just said Scallywag. Pretty good.
I like the ones where it's like their name is Dredgen, but then they equip like Conqueror or something.
Oh, what was the other one I saw? It was like they had the title Descendant, but they had the name Ascendant.
Yeah.
Ascendant Descendant is very good.
Never change. Destiny community.
Never change.
Well, for the most part, never change.
Yeah.
Some aspects maybe change.
A lot of people need to shut the fuck up. Now, talked about the stuff that came before yesterday. Now we should talk about the stuff that came through yesterday. A hot new expansion.
Before it actually officially launched and servers were still offline, and I just sent you a message that said, be me, sit with menu open, vibe to the new opening track, get emotional.
Yeah, just on the like press enter to sign in or whatever.
Yeah,
just the title
just
screen.
as Lightfall, and they play the new iteration of like the hero's call to action, and I was just like, oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah. I will say, probably one of the smoothest launch experiences I've ever had.
Because I jumped on around 10 a.m. Australia time.
Yeah.
And you were on closer to launch than I was.
Yeah, so I was up. I mean, I just woke up at 6 because I needed to pee, and then I was like, I might as well just
Destiny
get into
time.
it. Yeah, I was like, what am I going to go to sleep for like another hour or two? No, I don't think so. It's time to game. So yeah, I was on from about 6, which for us is 3 hours after reset. Not a single issue, no queues. Basically the entire time I was playing, I would get contacting Destiny 2 servers popping up, but like there were no issues. It just like would pop up while I was doing stuff and then nothing went wrong. And it was fine the whole day.
When I first jumped on, I had the issue of I tried to jump in and it said the Destiny servers were down very briefly. Right. So I just left it, came back in, could join. Other than that, I got Calabresi'd in an activity once. And I kind of knew it was coming because I was doing an activity and the AI wasn't responding to me being there. And I'm like, it's about to crash.
Yeah.
And then in one of the cutscenes, it froze and I had to restart and then go back and talk to someone and it ran normally.
Right.
But that could have very well been my computer, the freezing.
Yeah. But yeah, on the whole, it seems like, other than typical stuff you get at a season or an expansion reset of like, hey, this weapon or this mod has been disabled, like the Bungie help account's been putting that stuff out there. It's been pretty good, it seems like, in terms of stability, at least.
Yeah, mild stuttering, once again, could be my PC, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I had
gotten smashed with a couple of loading screens in Neo Muno, and I think that was literally just I had a full instance,
right,
and I was zipping around the map on my Sparrow, and I think I just got ahead of myself a little bit, but it was fine.
Yeah, I found that if you do it right, you can get your Sparrow into the Hall of Heroes. But what that means is if you're coming back on it out to the main Neo Muno era,
you just launch yourself.
No. You hit the staircase right before you go out to where Nimbus is. This is all getting ahead of ourselves, but anyway. And then you get the thing where you're like stuck, loading. Okay. And there was a bit there where it took like a minute. But I was definitely moving through that space faster than I think their loading code probably expects you to be able to.
But then also it's been, there's something extra here.
Yeah.
This isn't just a Guardian.
Yes.
Yeah, so opening cutscene, holy shit.
Yeah, it certainly, like, it had a lot of the elements from that launch trailer, but it kind of put them in, well, the correct order and context, I guess. Because there's a lot of things from that where we're like, this moment seems important, but they might just be editing it to make it confusing or seem different to what's actually happening. Because there were like lines from that trailer and a couple of shots that didn't show up until right at the end of the story.
Yeah. Just fuck, where do we even start? It's putty in my brain.
Yeah,
it's neon putty in my brain.
Yeah. Basically it was pyramid shot, like fully just being there. That's where we got the shot of the traveler kind of coming out of the ship into just open space, and the wave going off and blowing up a bunch of ships. That was where we thought Amanda Holiday had died.
Amanda in the dogfight. Then the interesting thing, and I pointed this out in our notes, the traveler fires off that beam, and it's almost like the beam sought out the witness.
Yeah.
It wasn't just firing blindly to protect itself,
across
cut
the front
along
of them.
and then stopped at the witness. And then you get the imagery of the tree coming out and the witness.
And then it kind of like just
leaving.
Hovers out through this beam.
Yeah, traveling up the beam. I was wrong. It wasn't the traveler's beam that charcuteried. It was just a flick of the wrist.
Look at the flick of the wrist.
Literally just moved its hand and blop.
Yeah.
Goodbye, OG Titan.
Yeah, and like
nerd.
Like I think I said last time, this is some of the first sort of visions we're getting of the witness actively attacking and damaging and like being involved in conflict. And like the devastation with minimal effort is some of the most uncomfortable shit of just like, it's just doing all this little like wavy sort of hand shit and shit is just blowing up and disintegrating.
I know so many people hate that, especially when it comes to fantasy and sci-fi where you get that enemy that just is OP.
Yeah.
Where they do basically nothing to destroy a lot. Yeah. Like you see it a lot in Marvel movies where they're just like so OP for no reason. It's that uphill hero's journey to get to that point.
I think they've earned it with the Witness.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very cliche in a lot of situations, but with the Witness, it's just the way they've formed this Witness in our minds. It's like it felt like a payoff to see the Witness actually be that powerful and just be like, oh, well.
Yeah, because even the way the Witness was revealed, even the way the Witness was revealed in Witch Queen, that was ominous in itself of just like, look at the way they're moving and just being imposing and taking up space, but also the way that they take time with the movement and the words and the things that they're doing. And it makes you kind of slow down and be like, I got to take you seriously.
Their movements are very calculated and precise and flowy, and it almost gives me in a way like Hannibal, but like the Mads Mikkelsen Hannibal, where it's all thought out and they're very prim and proper and particular and restrained. So those tiny movements that they do. Those movements feel more impactful because it's like everything has a reason.
Yeah.
Like the witness doesn't talk with their hands.
No.
Me. Like, and the other NPCs, when they talk, they move their arms, they move their head.
Yeah.
Whereas quite often, like the witness will just have its hands like gently in front of it, never down by its side, always. And I think that's really interesting, not only character design, but movement design, because it just all of their movements and even their facial movements, because they don't move their face when they talk. So when they do express something, it's like, oh,
I'm going to listen.
Those big Puss in Boot eyes.
Yeah. And the weird giant fucking eyebrow. Just.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until like they did a few
right up on close-ups,
and I was like, oh damn, witness got that caveman brow.
Not even plucking at this point. Just get a pair of clippers and just straight through the middle. Just get a gap going.
Got that Neolithic brow bone.
Caught a glimpse of some Neanderthals fucking 4,000 years ago. I was like, yeah, that's my look.
Caveman brow.
Yeah. I'm gonna look like that forever. I want to see like childhood witness photos where like they grew their hair out long because they were rebelling against their parents. But they're still with the fucking... Because it doesn't just go across. It goes like across, and then here at the temples it goes like back over the skull.
The witness went through a goth phase, so now they're just like one of those elder goths.
The witness is still going through a goth phase.
That's what I mean. Like now they're an office goth.
Office goth. They're basically wearing a leather trench coat. They're like, having a Matrix phase.
They've got a day job now, so they still want to harken back to their goth roots, but they've got to wear office wear. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because I'm kind of like that, just more like with the metalhead vibe than goth, but yeah.
Witness is an office goth.
Confirmed. I'm gonna tweet that later. Stolen Valor, my joke.
Edits it out of the podcast.
Yeah, this is mine now.
Like we recorded this conversation. You're like, where?
What context?
Gaslight me?
Prove it. You don't have the recording. I do.
We didn't.
What
recording? It's not in the podcast. Watch it.
Yeah, you watch the whole thing. Okay.
You edit it so you're telling the joke, but it's word by word.
I like
the witness is an office goth.
After we finish recording, I just record myself sitting here saying it, pretending like you're there, and then I just cut it in over me speaking.
The lighting's different. It's quite obvious. Your clothes are different.
Yeah, different. I've shaved. That would actually be really funny. No, not going to do that. So that's kind of the opening cutscene. Done.
Yeah. Witness sees the veil via the traveler by the looks of it. He gets like a vision touching it.
I kind of want to, based on later story stuff, I want to go and watch that again just to see if, like, knowing what I know now, if I catch anything else.
Osiris kind of realizes, and it's really beautifully done the way they do it, because it's like there's so much happening. The pyramids are fighting the Guardians and Terrans.
Terrans, yeah.
Humans, Solians, I don't know.
People from Earth, Terrans. Yeah.
And there's so much chaos happening, but in the middle of it all, it's like this peaceful, almost quiet moment between the traveler and the witness. But there's so much weight on this single peaceful moment, which I find really interesting. It's just a figure floating up to an orb and touching it, while all this death and chaos kind of reigns around it. And the characters so it's Mara, Ikora, Zavala, Osiris. Is that everyone in the helm?
I think so.
Yeah. And even they are kind of frozen. Like you can see they're obviously panicking and they're trying to scramble.
Like
they're all just
that's
standing
your
there.
god, and this fucking idiot has just floated right up to it and nothing has happened.
Yeah. And then Osiris realizes what's going on, and you see him kind of connect the dots and be like, the Veil, and then get in his ship. And then that's where we kind of get dropped in as Guardians and active players.
Well, yeah, because we like end up on the side of a ship and we pull ourselves into it.
Yeah, which is a cool way to start.
Yeah, very
action hero side.
Very much setting that action movie tone in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, so we ended up infiltrating one of the Cabal ships to track down Osiris.
Yeah.
Osiris is kind of acting a little bit unhinged, where he's just gone into this thing without a plan, and he's frustrated with the Guardians, and there's a whole bunch of like really fun moments with Osiris of him kind of roasting the Guardian, like keep up.
Yeah.
And then the other people being like, Osiris, you're an idiot. And he's like, no, you don't understand. I think I know what's happening.
Yeah.
And then there's a really funny moment where he's just in the drop pod.
Oh my god!
And
Ghost
is like, are you gonna right? But Ghost being like, "Are you gonna survive this? Is it dangerous?" And then Osiris being like, "I don't know. I guess what?" And he just gets ripped out, and he makes like a noise as it happens. And this, that sent me.
This is kind of the first of many kind of like almost fourth wall breaking, tongue in cheek moments across the whole story, where like we are now getting into the Cabal drop pod, the thing that has killed every Guardian at some point. And then getting and just be like, let's fucking go to Neptune, I guess. And just like, thunk, just gone.
It's just that slapstick moment of Osiris just being fired halfway through a sentence.
Yeah. It's just like the front of the drop pod just appears. You're like, well, I guess he's gone now. I guess I'll see him down there.
Bye.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get slung into Neptune via drop pod, and Neomuna's kind of a little bit already chunked up and damaged in some parts as like they said, active war zone.
Well, I mean, Callus fucking crashed his ship into it by the looks of things.
Wreck-It Ralph looking ass ship.
You know how like, I forget what it's called, but like, you know, a lot of old-timey sailing boats have the model, the figure of a person on the front of it, usually a woman. It's basically that, but he's beached it on a planet.
It reminds me of the Sphinx with the head and then the two arms.
Yeah,
but like the map makes it look like Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah. From the top down.
Wreck-It Ralph fucking looking ass. And then we get the voice lines, which we find out to be Nimbus and Rohan.
Yes.
Where they're like, hey, yo, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah. Yeah. Who are you? What? Earth? Guardian.
Oh, you're a Guardian? Dope.
Yeah, we've heard about you basically, but what the fuck are you doing here? How did you find us?
Yeah.
Very cool.
We kind of get to see them zip around, and then we eventually get to actually meet them.
And they're just have to
so
say
big.
It, they're fucking huge. Like
so fucking
like I've
big.
seen it mentioned a couple of places. They're basically like they're more than 10 feet tall, which, and I have screenshots to prove it, means we are head height with their asshole. Do with that information what you will.
As we learned last episode, Kaitel, depending on who you are, Joe, is 9'11". Lol. I shouldn't lol.
Big lady.
There's a joke in there.
Oh no.
And I combined their name in my head and nearly called them Rhombus. Rohan and Nimbus.
Nohan.
Rhombus.
I like Rhombus.
They both tower over Kaitel.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
I think the funniest thing is like I took a screenshot at one point of Osiris standing next to one of them, and it's like just literally twice as big.
Yeah. And we're a smidge shorter than Osiris. Like when my character walks up to Osiris, they're looking up slightly. So whoa.
Yeah.
I want to see Zavi next to one.
Oh, I know. Just give me 1 sec. The dog is barking and I need to see what
Cloudstrider's big.
Yeah. The big ones.
All the steppy.
Well, they mostly do the fly through the air on a sick metal skateboard.
They're just a blade.
God. Well, yeah, the multifunctional sky blade. I don't know what the fuck. Did they refer to that thing by any kind of proper noun at any point?
I can't remember, but it'll probably be in a lore entry somewhere.
I'm pretty sure I remember them calling it something. but it's like they do it maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
They're big.
And they just look sick. Like there's a lot of like body mods and augments, and it's just like half of their arm might just be fucking chrome, and it's all shiny, and but it also looks like it's integrated with their flesh, as opposed to some games with that kind of character would be like, oh, from the elbow down, and it looks like a thing they've just bolted on in a character editor. This is like, no, this is built to be part of their whole shit.
And Nimbus has silver eyebrows, which I can appreciate.
Yeah, I wish I could pull that off. That's both of them, hell of a look.
Fits. And you realize Nimbus has been kicking ass in heels and a corset.
Oh,
you're just like, I appreciate them.
Yeah.
I appreciate them.
Very good
Committed
stuff.
to the drip.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
Yeah.
And the voice modulation on their characters adds such a layer of like
I didn't pick it up
personality
initially,
to them.
But there's like, at least with Nimbus, I don't know if I caught it with Rohan, but like when Nimbus is speaking, behind their voice is what sounds like synth chords, kind of like a vocoder set up. And like you can hear the note of their voice, but there's like other notes behind it in a synthy kind of tone. I'm like, that's very cool, and like it's pretty subtle. But once you notice it, you're like, oh, there it is. Okay, it's just still going. But it's like the intonation and the variation of pitch doesn't line up with their actual speech, and that's really interesting. It's not just like turning their voice into a song. It's like, no, there's just some other stuff happening behind it. It's very cool. Because it's
super cool.
I feel like if they'd gone, this is the melody of what they're saying, we're going to put the appropriate chords for those notes under it, that would have actually probably just been annoying as shit. Because it's like, well, now they sound like a Disney character, and we don't need that. This isn't a musical. Yeah. Just make them sound
Which
cool.
Is like, this kind of sounds like their cybernetic mods are modulating their voice in a way that isn't quite like, it's uncanny valley in a couple of different ways where you're like, it's a human voice, but there's other things going on there that catch your attention.
If this was like a post-apocalyptic, like cyberpunk kind of style game, you could see this being like, well, they lost their vocal cords and replaced it with some kind of like Casio keyboard situation, and they just slapped some electronics in there, wired it all up, and that's how it sounds. It'd be something like that.
It's great.
It is very good.
So cool.
It is very good.
They're so cool.
The literal next note here from you is just cups, swords, and dogs. Oh my. Yeah. And I know exactly the moment that you're talking about.
So part of, just to backtrack a little bit, because I didn't unspoiler anything you sent because I knew you're a few missions ahead of me. So I was worried that was like Cloud Strider lore that I was about to accidentally ruin for myself. So I didn't open it.
No, I was just saying they're so big.
They're so dope. I was doing the first mission when you're trying to catch up with Osiris, and part of the mechanics of that mission is cups, swords, and dogs.
Yeah.
And I thought, and you're on a Callus ship, and I thought that was really cool. It was like, hey, remember Leviathan? Fuck you, you're not getting it back.
Yeah, but also like they brought those symbols back in duality as well, and we had to do them there. This was more like
just for it to be associated
the doors with these symbols situation.
But yeah, just, hey, remember Leviathan? Still not fucking bringing it back. Fuck you.
Callus still loves symbols. You can take these from his cold dead hands.
I just thought that was super interesting. Also, first time meeting a Tormentor.
Yeah. And this is the first time I'm going to bring up the fact that I played this through the whole campaign yesterday on Legendary solo. And let me tell you for free, that first Tormentor fight, or even the first encounter with one, because the first time you encounter one, you just have to run away. That first time on Legendary is one of the scariest things I think I've experienced in a while. Because like, I know they're going to be big. They're essentially the Brig or the Wyvern of this expansion. And what we've seen of them, I'm like, this doesn't look fun at all. And then when it appears and I'm shooting it and it's just like immune. I'm like, well, this can't be good. I'm not.
This sucks.
Yeah, like I'm at level for this. And then I was like, and then I listened to the voice lines and stuff. I was like, oh, what I'm supposed to do here is just run away.
I gotta go.
Yeah, but yeah, when I had to actually fight one for real, not long after that, boy, was that stressful. But we'll get to that because I think that's a little ahead of us where we are now.
It's about the same.
Is it?
We jumped a little bit ahead in going down to Mars. We didn't. Neptune.
Yeah.
We didn't really speak about the actual key beats in the mission that set us up.
Yeah.
Tormentor is one of them. You run away from that, and then you end up in a fight with one of them, and you learn how to defeat them.
Yeah. So
I had a.
Yeah, there's.
I was just gonna say I had a moment. Woo!
You go.
I had a moment where I jumped up on one of the platforms, and I was like, "Haha, I'm safe up here." And then it jumped up, and I was like,
I did the same
that
thing.
noise I make where I'm like,
I did the same thing. But yeah, the thing that I don't think I realized this until at least 2/3 into the campaign. Like Rolk in the Vow of the Disciple boss fight, because they're essentially made of the same shit. There are like glowing kind of yellowy goldy bits of their body that if you pile enough damage into the Tormentor, that will essentially like stun them and get them into a more damageable state. Because I was running a lot of Titan solar throwing hammers, and before you do that, they just go right through. And I don't know if that's a bug, but it definitely happened. And it was pretty tough because that was most of my damage output was that fucking throwing hammer. Swear to God. But yeah, I was just like brute forcing every Tormentor fight until I realized that. So I'd be like, just super Xenophage, just throw everything at it. And like, thankfully, what used to be called blinding grenades and now disorienting grenades, those work on Tormentors, not the like named super Tormentors that we will talk about in a bit, but like just the regular run-of-the-mill Tormentors, you can disorient them, and that gives you a lot. That gives you a lot of time to think when you're on Legendary by yourself, and you need it. Yeah, they're a rough time.
Yeah, fucking scary.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're running around and you see like the orange like ribbons, you're like, ugh!
Yeah, and it's also because there's some enemies that like were dropping little like bombs or mines essentially that you could shoot to explode, but they were like the same look, and you're like, fuck, is that going to be another Tormentor coming in here? What are we doing?
Yeah, like the Scorn have those things that immune them or protect them, and it looks turrets? Like. Yeah, the Shadow Legion now have their own equivalent of that where it drops like a darkness spike and that puts them in an immune or like a low damage state.
It's in a...
It looks like it's in a coffin and then it pops.
Yeah, but there's like a light gold bubble around it, and that's showing you is like what's going to be hurt by it when you blow it up.
Yeah, which is nice. Yeah. I like blowing them up.
And they're good in some of the later fights. They're actually like surprisingly effective as weapons when you learn how to like kite something into it, and you're like, bam, explosion.
Haha, undone by your own protection.
Your own dumb shit.
Anyway, so you do all that. You meet a Tormentor, you beat a Tormentor, you meet another Tormentor, beat that Tormentor. And then it's into the drop pods and then down to Neptune.
Yeah.
We've met Nimbus and Rohan. And then either shortly after that or on our way to meet them, we get our first encounter with Strand.
Yes.
Which is very interesting. Yes. Oh, we're on our way to rescue Osiris when we get the Strand.
Yeah, because his drop pod landed somewhere else. God knows how you aim one of those things. Just on the end of a joystick, just like, fuck, this thing's so unwieldy. How do I shoot this?
Oh, it's like a Zorb where you've got to like...
Oh, yeah. Those things are crazy. You're just inside of it, bouncing down a hill, just like, fuck. Oh. Yes.
Yeah, so that's interesting where you encounter that and it kind of spins Ghost out a little bit. Ghost is like, hey, yo, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like, whatever this is, I don't think I like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like darkness, but it also doesn't feel like light.
Yeah.
You're like, wait.
But somehow you're able to do things with it.
And you fuck around with it a little bit, and then it puts you in an exhausted state, which is something I don't remember ever seeing in Destiny applied to a Guardian before.
Not as a status, but in terms of
slowed and stuff. But
you remember, like, when you're doing DSC, after you do the crash right before the boss fight, you're basically in that state.
We used to be able to lock ourselves into a scary limp.
So funny. But yeah, you kind of just like, it goes to third person, you've got like a suppression effect on you, and you're just kind of like hobbling for a bit. And that's kind of you going like, the way they explain it is like, Strand is an immense amount of power that you have just fucking put your mouth under the fire hose and you're just like, let's go. And then your body's like, hey, I might need to be sick for a minute.
Yeah, the Guardians kind of hobble around like they got a tummy ache.
Yeah,
they like clutch.
You can still move, and they're just like it's the Walking Dead out here.
Which is interesting. How did Strand feel for you as a Titan?
Well, classic Titan shit. Punch everything. The barricade, when you throw one up, it sends out a little wave that I think suspends enemies. I think that's what that does. But anyway, the grapple is incredibly fun.
Yeah.
So you playing as a warlock, when you do a grapple, you have the ability to melee at the end of it, right?
Yes. Cool. So you queue into C.
Yeah. So the melee outside of a grapple context is basically the same thing for a Titan. What your melee, I think, is something different.
We throw out like a little dart. It's a long distance melee, and you can. So the dart hits the enemy, and then the enemy's glowing with Strand. And if you break that enemy, it drops one of those orbs.
Yeah,
can drop. It's not guaranteed, but I also haven't put any aspects on. So
the one. So when you're doing it through the campaign, it basically is operating like you've got aspects and shit applied. Yeah. So when I eventually unlocked it fully, all of the stuff I had been doing with it in the campaign was tied to aspects and fragments I got straight away. Okay, but so do you get 1 or 2 charges of melee?
2 charges.
Yeah, same. But yeah, the Titan melee is very similar to the thing you get at the end of a grapple swing. You just get to do it 2 more times, and that's kind of fun but it's got a bit of a sweep to it, so you can hit maybe 3-4 enemies if they're kind of bunched up. And even on the legendary campaign, it was basically one-shotting like scions and even like standard run-of-the-mill. What are the big boys called? Not the phalanxes, but like that size cabal without the shield.
Like the Shadow Legion.
Yeah, just
Commander or something like that.
The regular dudes. The Titan melee would basically one-shot all of them. And I'm not sure what the conditions are for that generating one of the Tangle orbs, but I think it's on multi-kills, or it might just be on getting a kill with a charged melee. I'm not sure. I'd have to go and actually look at it now that I've got it fully unlocked and I can look at all the fragments and shit. But yeah, I also spent a lot of time doing the thing from the trailer, which is grabbing the Tangle, throwing it, and then grappling to it, flying through the air, landing a melee on the other end of it, getting another 2 melees off once I land on everything else, and just whipping around, chaining all the shit together. Because the other thing that I think is really great about this campaign, and I think what I hope is that it's not just a like release week thing, it's just like how it always plays. Whenever you pick up Strand in the campaign like that, you also are in Strand empowered state. Which is like on Europa, if you go to that part of the map where you've got stasis empowered or stasis, it's essentially like increased ability regen, increased super regen, but with the Strand version, it's just like, hey, did you just use your grapple? Cool, you've basically got it back already.
Yeah.
So you can just throw it out there and just go nuts. which is actually super sick because also it's really, really powerful shit. And we'll get to this later. It basically got me through the boss fight when I was doing it on Legendary. It was the thing that saved my ass, just being able to like, I'm in danger, grapple, I'm out of here.
I like how differently our brains are, where your brain went, I wonder how I can chain this together like to kill utility, enemies.
Yeah.
And my brain went, can I grapple to my friend?
And the answer is yes.
And I will do it over and over again.
In so many ways, you are a sicko.
Just a big freak with a little green freak. Yeah, I actually really love grapple. I cannot wait to grief them.
Yeah, so like for some additional context, viewers, like I said, I started my like solo Legendary campaign run at 6-ish in the morning. I think I kind of wrapped up everything by about 5:30 p.m. You know, obviously I took breaks for lunch and some other stuff, and there were parts of it where you had to level to be able to do the next mission, and that in itself was annoying that we're still having to do that, but whatever, we're here. And then, yeah, 5:30, went and like just quit the game, walked the dog, did dinner. Then I got back on that night, and I think you were maybe halfway through the campaign by that point.
It took me longer because me being me, pigeon brain, I got distracted.
Yeah. And
by Neomuna and
and then I think I joined you at one point.
I went and did EDZ shit randomly and came back to the campaign.
You told me like, hey, I'm a bit stuck, I'm lost, whatever. And again, we're not up to that part in the story yet. We'll get to that, and we'll explain why this is funny. I joined you at that point. You're about halfway through the story, and then I finished it with you just on regular difficulty, and that's why I was up until 1 a.m. But like that entire time I spent with you doing it, you know, we were running around doing patrols because we had to for leveling or whatever. And anytime I was running anywhere, there was like a 70% chance that you were behind me tethering onto my back with Strand. I'm just like jumping up a ledge, and you're just like, take me with you, please. I don't want to jump.
There's a few times where you had been climbing and you just hear, I'm coming too.
And then a few times that killed you.
But me just barreling towards you. You turn around and you just see me. just pulling you in, because that's all it does. It just pulls you towards the thing, and if you're falling, you get a bit of a swing, and... Or like you'd be grappled onto like a grapple point, and I'd be on your ankle like some fucked George of the Jungle.
Yeah, and the funniest part was like when I would obviously make whatever jump or ledge I was trying to hit, but you, because you're behind me by a grapple length, you don't get that height, so you don't make the jump, so you don't clamber, you just fall away and die.
Or I was coming in from the side and you would land your jump, but my momentum would keep going, throw me off the map.
Yeah, so we're here to tell you that Strand is sick as hell, and you should do some dumb stuff with it.
Silly fun.
Yeah,
it's silly fun.
Yeah, it's like it was initially felt a little unwieldy because I have grenade bound to clicking my mouse wheel, because I like to have as much of my ability stuff on the mouse, so I can do that all with one hand. I've got thumb buttons and whatever, so that my left hand is just concerned with movement, and I don't have to like reach for too many keys outside of that. So yeah, it was like a little odd because I also have some stuff bound for melee on like pushing the mouse wheel left or right. So sometimes I would go to do a grapple and accidentally just do a big melee swing. I'm like, well, that's not what I was trying to do at all. Thank you.
I'm used to, and you saw me do it a few times, I'm used to using at the moment Void. Yep. So I would go to throw a grenade and grapple to the boss, and I'd be like,
this is not right.
You'd see me run the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Like super for Warlock is fun too.
Yeah, I've seen some people say like, oh, I wish it wasn't on grenade. I wish it didn't replace your grenade. The thing is, there are other Strand grenade options. I think you get 3, of which 1 is the grapple. At least with the first wave of stuff. There might be more later, but I get why they've done that, because the ability to grapple to literally any point in space Because like if there's no node for you to grapple onto, you can just do it.
It'll go a certain distance and pull you forward.
Like that is incredibly powerful and possibly game breaking, depending on where you do that. So I get that it's not just a thing you can do willy nilly. But hey, if you want to, might I recommend Armamentarium, a Titan chest exotic that gives you an additional grenade charge, or Heart of Inmost Light, a Titan chest exotic, which gives you increased ability regen for the one that you didn't just use. There's options.
Yeah.
I haven't confirmed that those work that way, but it seems like it should because it's a grenade.
It's going to have its flexibility, but at the same time, it's like a lot of the time, well, I know at least for the Warlock, the melee almost functions as a grenade.
Yeah, you're flicking something out of your hands.
It's a long distance. It's like a Kuni needle. Like you just fling it and it hits the target and then eventually.
You can't say that. It's 2023.
Oh, no.
It's a what needle?
Oh, no. Yeah, and then as a Warlock, I get my little friends.
Oh my god! So I hadn't seen these because they show up in the trailer for like a very brief period. But then when we were playing together, and you were just flinging them out there, and the way that they fucking move and just slide through the ground, they're a lot more
menacing in game. Hey?
And they were like,
they're oddly menacing.
They were kind of like,
and then they return to the Warlock
when they're returning to you. God, it's so fucking gross.
It doesn't help that you have me goblin laughing in the background, and calling them my little freaks.
So you're laughing, saying that. I turn around and I'm like, no, that you're right. That doesn't look good at all.
They're like coming to me, crawling up my legs. I'm like, hey, my friends.
Yeah. I'm kind of excited to like fuck around with Strand a little bit more. Like, I mean, to be fair, I probably should also go back and look at Stasis again because like I did it initially with Beyond Light and I never really went back to it because it's just not the way that Stasis on a Titan functions. It's not exactly how I like to play anymore. But Strand, I feel like with the amount of mobility it gives you, I might be able to build something there that's kind of fun and goofy.
I'm excited to fuck with those exotics and start unlocking
the Titan Strand super. God, you feel like a fucking truck. Like the amount of damage those swings do. Great, love it. But how aggressive the tracking is on hitting something, if there's anything kind of within a, 30 to 45 degree arc in front of you, you're probably going to track to it and you're probably going to disintegrate it.
It looks massive watching you do it as well, too. It looks terrifying.
And like the thing we spoke about that they talked about in the Dev Insight video, the alt fire, which essentially you flick them up, and it sends like 2 waves of energy out in front of you. And if it hits something, it suspends them in the air. That's actually
I grapple to them.
That was actually really, really clutch for like just crowd control. Like I'm hitting a couple things because they're up close. I see those guys over there. That's a giant cabal shooting me with a rocket launcher. I'm going to flick him up in the air and then I'm going to go get him. And it's so effective. So good. All right, that's the Strand minute. Quick diversion. Speaking of quick diversions, you've actually used the Verglass Curve, the Stasis exotic bow off the season pass. I haven't even pulled it yet. Tell me about it.
It's essentially a stasis bow.
Great, love that.
As established. It has this is just from memory, it has a altered, like an intrinsic like perk thingy. You know how they all get their special perk?
Mm-hmm.
Called Hail Barrage. And basically what that is you'll get like a little hail barrage, and then I think you can get 2 of them on the side. And basically what that is it's a quiver. Is it the quiver, the thing that you shoot? Yeah.
Well, quiver's the thing you pull arrows from to then shoot.
Well, an arrow, yeah. If they land, they pop a stasis crystal, or they can freeze an enemy if you land it on an enemy.
Right.
So you can basically lay into an enemy, see that hail barrage crop up, plant stasis crystal, pop it, kill the enemy, or alternatively freeze a bunch of closely grouped up enemies.
Okay.
It's a lot of, it has a tiny learning curve. Like once you get used to it, you get used to the beat, like the pattern of it.
It's kind of reminding me of.
It can be really good for ad clear.
It like what you've described. It reminds me of Tiku's divination a bit, where like
a little bit, where it's got a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, you've got to hit. You've got to like hip fire the first shot, and then aim fire the next one to actually make it explode.
Yeah, or even Trinity Ghoul, where you have to get used to its.
Well, Trinity Ghouls just get a kill first, and then the next shot arc explosion.
Yeah, it's all about getting used to the pattern or the beat or the rotation of using it. And then once you're comfortable with that, you can actually pretty effectively. I haven't used it for like I haven't tested it in a boss fight situation yet.
Yeah,
but in terms of,
I don't think I'd use a bow against a boss, to be honest.
In terms of close up squishy enemies, it's actually very good at like the way that Vex cluster up.
Yeah,
you can clear out Vex pretty quickly.
Yeah, fanatics and goblins and shit. They're just like
you can use it to slow Cabal pretty effectively as well. Those stasis crystals will slow them or freeze them. Like it's once you get the pattern of it, you start to see how it could be effective, and it's pretty effective for ad clear. Just in the way that I play, some people might hate it, some people might love it, but with the way that I play, once I figured out what it did. Because you read, it's like most exotics, you read the description, you go, oh yeah, and it's not until you actively use it and see that perk in motion that you're like, oh, that's how that works.
Yeah,
it was like revision 0 for me. I didn't get it, and then when I figured it out, I was like, oh shit, this thing whips.
You turn on that sniper mode, you're like, oh, there it is. That's actually sick.
There it is. Yeah, that's why I want to use it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing for me. Like some exotics, I read the description of what they do, I'm like, yeah, immediately I know I'm gonna love this, but I have fired every exotic weapon once at some point, just to like, see the loop, see how it feels, and the ones that I enjoy, I keep using. But there have been some I've gone back to much later, like Graviton Lance is a great example of this. When I first used it, I wasn't like running a lot of Void, I wasn't running a lot of Pulse Rifles, or no, if I was running Bad Juju. Like that was my main exotic weapon for a long time. And then, Void 3.0 came around. I was like, okay, what are my Void exotic weapon options? And then I discovered Graviton Lance. And I am now a huge fan of that gun. It's so much fun. And there's been a few like that. Like Polaris Lance is another case where like I needed a Solar Scout, and that is one, but also it's got a cool perk that makes shit explode if you do it right. So yeah, I will fire every gun at some point, and some of them I come back to. Yeah. Okay, where are we up to? We've kind of. I'm trying to think. Like, I don't know if I want to like just literally describe the entire campaign.
Yeah, I think we should leave some stuff up for people.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
so
that first kind of mission and a bit is pretty cool. Neat. It's a lot of cool reveals.
And then we get some interesting lore, which I don't know if you want to talk about, but just with the way that Neomuna functions, I thought was super interesting.
Yeah, this is the Cloud Arc stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a nice twist to like, why is this city empty? And it's like, oh, it's because they're projections, essentially.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is a really good way to handle the why is the city empty instead of just doing
populating it.
Oh, well, the Cabal turned up, so we evacuated everyone.
Yeah,
like
or,
that
or
old.
Or doing the Bloodborne thing where everyone is just inside.
Yeah, it's scary outside. I don't have my smudge stick with me.
To be fair, it is scary outside. But yeah, so the Cloud Arc is described at one point as essentially like a virtual place that their consciousnesses, their brains. Yeah, like they essentially upload themselves to the Cloud Arc. Does that mean like, when you go and stand next to Nimbus, there's like those floating kind of yellow.
Yeah, those yellow things with the different glowing hearts. They're the projections.
Okay. Okay, cool. Because I kept seeing those around. I'm like, is this some kind of like collectible I haven't discovered yet that I'm going to need to put something here? No, that's just the people of the city.
Digital ghosts.
Cool. But yeah, so I don't know how long ago that happened. I'm sure it was explained in the lore somewhere. But yeah, it's a pretty cool idea. On first blush, I was like, oh, sick, you've described what people think the metaverse is. But it's not, hey, put on a VR helmet and do a kind of like Second Life experience where you're just there, but you still have a body and a life to lead. This is just fully, they don't have bodies, right? They're just in the thing.
The Cloud Striders' job is to protect the bodies. So the way they described it is everyone, when their conscious is hooked to the Cloud Arc, I think they're actually in the Cloud Arc too. Yeah. The bodies, they're asleep.
Yeah.
So part of that is also the Cloud Striders' job is to protect the people of the city. So they are actively taking themselves out of this virtual reality or out of this AI state, altered state, I suppose, and being cybernetically enhanced and having their life cut real short.
Yeah, because their bodies are running hot from all that extra shit they put in there.
Yeah, to protect the physical bodies of the people of the Neomuni, as they're called, which I think is really cute.
The people of Neomuna.
Yeah, the Neomuni.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the primary function of the Cloud Striders, is to just spend a decade of their existence protecting the Neomuni and protecting the Cloud Arc, and then by extension, the Veil.
Yes.
Because as we discovered, without getting too far ahead of it, the Cloud Arc is reliant on the power from the Veil.
Yeah. Yeah, in ways that I still don't fully understand, but
we will find out, I suppose.
I'm hoping to. But yeah, the city itself just looks like a city. It looks like a classic Destiny city, except way more futuristic and kind of shiny and bright. But then, like, part of my brain is like, well, why did they build all of this if people are living virtually? And I'm guessing at some point they built all this shit and then that happened.
Yeah, there's probably a calamity, not a calamity, but something that made them make that decision.
Yeah.
And decide that was the best existence for the people of Neomuna.
There's one lore book that I kind of want to go back and actually properly read that you unlock as you work your way through the campaign. And I think that is kind of describing that transition based on the little I kind of glanced over it. It sounded like, again, like Beyond Light with the incredibly sad child story, it sounds like from the perspective of a child or some kind of young person of like, this doesn't make sense to me. I'm talking to friends. I'm talking to adults. What is happening? We're going through this transition. Don't quote me on that. I haven't read the full lore book. I intend to, because it seems very interesting. It's just not something I had time to like sit down and properly read yesterday.
Yeah, I also like doing that thing where I actually like getting the full lore book and then I'll commit like 35, 45 minutes reading it while I'm eating dinner or something. Yeah. I quite often, if you see me in Destiny and I'm eating dinner, I'm actually sitting there reading lore that I've unlocked.
Yeah.
Or
the only time I didn't do
listening
that
to
was
audiobooks of the lore.
Yeah. The penguins on Europa, those I read every time I unlocked one because I was like, I read the first one and I was like, fuck, I need to know what happens next as soon as I can.
Yeah, you and Alex made me do the Penguins quest while I was in a video call with you.
Yeah.
And then I got the final penguin and I think I was sitting in silence reading it. And I think it was either you or Alex were like, "Did you finish reading it, Meckii?" And I think you just heard me go, "Fuck you guys." Like I was crying. I think I was like, "You fucking knew."
Yeah.
Like, I was crying.
Yeah.
I think you guys heard me sniffling. You're like, "You done yet, Mac?"
Yeah.
Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I'm going
home. Actually, speaking of emotional moments out of nowhere, at one point, I think it's like when they kind of introduce the season questline, storyline, you go back to the EDZ, to the farm. and seeing the farm.
Farm is back. The farm is back. The farm
is back, but also it looks like it's been bombed. And going in, like loading into that location and just immediately seeing these buildings that I once upon a time in Destiny 2 spent a lot of time looking at, just completely destroyed essentially, like hit me for a moment where I was like, initial D2, Red War, you're in the farm to start with, and you go back to the farm a whole bunch, and that's kind of like where you are for a lot of that time. And then you go back, there's like a couple times we've gone back there for various things, but seeing that as like a very tangible like war effect was surprisingly affecting for me. And seeing all those people lying on like, war war cots and like field medics and shit being around. It's like, damn dude, this do be real right now.
And the elixir there as well.
Yeah,
too.
And that was it too. It's like, it's not just humans as part of the conflict. It's like all these people we've like rallied to our side, they're also getting fucked up. We don't have a solution.
Yeah. And then it's also too, I think the pyramid gave everyone Tommy X.
Yes.
And then just Mara in the middle of it all doing her spooky bullshit, which I adore, where she's just like
above her head
summoning.
Yes. And
the Techians are there as well. And then Devrim is there.
Yes. Devrim, make me some tea. I want some tea.
I love Devrim. But good. Yeah, it's just super interesting. They start talking about the farm, and I was like, the farm is back. The farm has returned.
Yes.
And then Mara being like, hey, yo, so the light ain't going to get us through this, just FYI. We've been converging. We've been stewing, molding, pondering, and we've realized the light isn't going to help us. Like, it's not going to be the only thing. We're going to have to call on the darkness.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, though. I'm here to guide you because Awoken and also Queen, do you want to be loyal to me?
Yes,
and I'm
Queen.
Like, yes, I do want to be loyal to you, our bisexual actual Queen.
Yes.
And it looks like EDZ conflict is going to be like our weekly mission stuff moving forward for the most part.
Yeah, I don't think you or I have done much at all of the seasonal stuff, so we can't really say even where we think that's going, because like we did the one mission it basically forces you to do.
And we got Amanda back.
Yes, we did. That was the strike, right? You rescue her at the end of the strike?
I think at the end of the first
like the
battleground.
The new strike, isn't it? Or am I misremembering?
I don't remember. Isn't it a battleground? Where you're in the bubble and then you move forward to the bubble and then you beat the enemy and then they're enclosed in a thing and it lifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is that.
So she was in there.
Good battleground. Like as far as the variations
easy.
on the battlegrounds format we've had to date, I like it. Like it's reusing mechanics from Blind Well to an extent, and like it didn't feel overly fiddly. It was just like go over here, kill that thing, stand in the well, hit the dude, throw a bunch of damage in there, repeat. It's just it's good.
And then without going into every beat of the lore, some stuff happens to do with trying to stop Callus from radial
mast.
That's it, because I made a joke. It sounded like a gunship song.
Yeah.
You don't want Callus enabling the radial mast, so there's a lot of plot line around making sure that doesn't happen.
Well, because they're basically saying that the radial mast was a way to create a link to the veil, whatever that means or whatever that does, which is relevant later. But yeah, it's proper noun soup a little bit.
Nimbus roasting Osiris the entire time.
Okay. Yes. So 2 big things that I really want to shout out for Nimbus the character One is like, yeah, how it's written, how they're characterized of like what the impression I get, and I think I've seen this echoed on Twitter by someone, is like it seems like there's someone who is like early to mid 20s who have opted for this, 10-year lifespan Cloud Strider thing, and they are just working through it, right? They've got that classic like young adult, I'm gonna go out and just be reckless, get shit done. But that's where a lot of the like kind of tongue-in-cheek, fourth wall breaking, poking fun at some of the Destiny bullshit comes from. It's just shit that that Nimbus says.
It's like millennial and Gen Z humor in the Destiny universe.
Yeah. One of them that I quoted comes up after you run the new strike for the first time, and he's talking about like having a conversation with Osiris, and that he like kind of zoned out, and then I fucking just put the screenshot of the subtitle in and tagged it with like every D2 lore creator be like. But after correcting me, he started explaining more of his theories in great detail, and a lot of proper nouns got thrown around. I'm like, yeah, that's just anything to do with Destiny. Like, I'm going to be pedantic, but boy, have I got the proper nouns that you should be using for whatever you're trying to say.
And then Nimbus takes on every D2 player and goes, so I stopped listening for a while.
Yeah, I was talking to legitimately my manager at work, who also like has played a bit of Destiny and her partner like plays a lot of Destiny, and she was asking me, because she's been away for like 3 weeks, she was asking me like how is it, how are things, and I was explaining like some of the Strand stuff, and I mentioned like a few of the keywords like tangle and suspend, and she was like, I hate that I have to know this. But also like I hate that I kind of understand it. Like,
I hate that this knowledge is in my brain.
It's just proper nouns that I've learned the meanings for, and I know how they connect, and that's just Destiny in a nutshell. But it's any kind of like fantasy setting, right? You learn the names for things and how they're relevant and important.
Also, shout out to Nimbus referring to Osiris as museum volunteer.
Museum volunteer, but also old bird. The old bird.
Yeah, but museum volunteer energy.
Cook that
man. I thought that was great.
The other thing that I was gonna shout out is the voice actor for Nimbus.
Yes,
came across this tweet from Marin M. Miller. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I think it's right. Yeah, 3 M's. Almost got a Hanson song there for you. Basically, like their tweet, the tweet itself was, it is my honor to announce that I voiced Nimbus in Destiny 2 Lightfall. I know the team pushed to have a non-binary actor in the role, Nimbus, of course, being they, them pronouns, I'm assuming non-binary based on that, based on some of the stuff that, because they've like posted images of a longer post that kind of goes into that. But just saying, thank you for taking a chance on me. And I think like, the voice work is incredible. And the note kind of goes into more of like, it seems like Marin pushed for some of how Nimbus is portrayed to be like, this is more of a like, I don't know, non-binary vibe. Is that even a thing? Just to be like, this is a more accurate or authentic way of portraying a character like that. Which is sick that they went for it.
And they bring so much life to Nimbus too.
Yeah. And it's one of those things like the first time I came across it, and it's the energy of Nimbus is very different to a lot of the characters in Destiny, and that's almost confronting in a small way. And then you kind of learn to love it throughout the campaign of like, oh no, this is actually like sick as hell. You're doing cool shit. You're doing cool shit, and you're going to tell me about it. And need more of that.
And I think, and there's a few other Neo Mooney with that kind of energy too. And it's like, it's one of those things that like, at first it's a bit jarring, but then as I was playing, I was thinking about it, and it was like, because I saw a lot of people say that like, Nimbus's attitude and his their rambunctious attitude and behavior was grating. It was immature, Baba, collapse. Like they were just too tangled up in the lore themselves in their own head. But it's like, it's one of those things where you need to consider that the Neo Mooney have been protected from this.
Yeah.
This is their first taste of they had no clue this was coming, really. To an extent they did, but like they've lived in this little, bubble.
Basically.
Literally, like a
they've
bubble.
Been hidden
like
from the universe until very recently.
They had no clue this was coming. And they'd heard whispers of Guardians and the abilities they possess, and whispers of the Traveler, obviously from the days of the Ishtar Collective and remnants of like the Earth tech that came. So obviously they had like, they were, I guess in a way, like folktales, lore.
Yeah.
So they don't have the weight that we have. And I think that's accurately reflected in some of the Neo Mooney and Nimbus, and even to a degree, Rohan understands the weight of what is coming and makes a lot of poignant conversation. But at the same time, there's like that youthful optimism there because they haven't had to deal with 10 years of this pressing danger.
They don't need to know that you're basically fighting gods.
They don't entirely understand the weight of it at the moment where we are in the lore.
Yeah.
That could change. That could change in the next expansion. It could change in the next seasons.
Yeah.
They might finally start to grasp what is happening.
Yeah.
And, and like Nimbus talks about situations a lot, and you realize, oh, Callus to them is just this big, stinky, gross guy.
Yeah.
Who's a bit of a shit dad.
Yeah, I mean, like Nimbus and Rohan, like they don't really ever come into contact with Callus himself. They are dealing with the Shadow Legion, and there's a lot of them, probably more than anyone who's ever tried to attack Neptune, if any. But like Callus himself, turns out, actually packs a hell of a punch with this new Disciple variant. But they're just like, dude, there's a lot of these guys, but like we can take them out pretty easy.
Yeah, and like. Prior to that, Nimbus existed in the Cloud Arc and is new to their role as a Cloud Strider. Like they've got all these dope abilities now and cybernetic enhancements, and they've just met someone who is a god. As like Guardians are essentially gods. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this person can throw an orb of void energy. And the ghosts are fun and cute. Like,
there's one
they're kind of like Pukas, but
there's one like voice line that happens at the start of one of the missions where we're talking about Strand, and I think like Osiris mentions like being able to see it, and then Nimbus is basically like, wait, you can see that? What is going on? Like, how are you able to just pull on the fabric of reality like this?
Yeah, and then there's even like a patrol person who comes up, Sam something, Moylan or something like that.
Yeah, like a voiceover when you start a patrol,
Yeah, they're like, hey, can you go kill all these Vex with your abilities for science?
Yeah.
And then as you're doing it, they're like, that's so cool.
They're out there shooting
I will
cams.
I will take this data and analyze it. And like, it's fun stuff like that. It's like, the Neo Mooney have no fucking clue what's going on. And they're floating balls of data.
Yeah.
Like, it's, I think people need to kind of pull back and understand the nuance of it all. Yeah. And just think like there are conflicts happening in foreign countries in real life, and people who are from the US, Australia, UK are memeing about it. Yep. It's the same detachment. We don't understand the weight of it until it's on our front door.
Damn.
It's that same kind of like detachment.
Damn, that might be the thing they're going for there. Because like
maybe, I'm being too deep.
The thing is, like, some of the seasons over the last year or two have kind of
they've run parallel with IRL.
Yeah, they've touched on elements of like isolation, anxiety, trauma, like things we have legitimately all dealt with because of the pandemic, right? And that feels like it could be where they got the inspiration for that, is the idea of like, this conflict is foreign, therefore I don't need to understand or care about it. This conflict is not
emotionally weighted in my world yet.
Yeah. Damn. I hadn't thought about that. That's really good.
Yeah, I was talking about it with a coworker today because they had kind of the same like, oh, Nimbus is a bit annoying, and I was like, well,
yeah, he doesn't know anything.
Essentially,
they don't know anything.
They're essentially a child, and they've just been given this cool ability as a Cloud Strider, and then this is probably the most action they've seen in their life. But also, they're completely detached from this conflict. They had no clue what was happening until Callus crashed his ship into their world. And then all of a sudden it was like, hey, holy fuck, we've got to sort this situation out and protect the Cloud Arc. And then a Guardian pops in and goes, so actually, it's a lot more fucked than that.
Yeah, there's some other shit we need to get at.
Yeah, so it's like, and he was like, oh yeah, you make a good point. I'm like, you just got to step away from a little bit.
Back. You know,
think about it. I thought about the campaign after we played it last night for a while. Like, I'm going to go read the lore, probably understand it a bit deeper.
That's it. There's probably a lot of stuff there that we just didn't catch because, like, you know, I was focusing just on, you know, I've got this one day off that I can focus on trying to get the story done because I want to get that legendary stuff done, get the gear boost, get up to 1770, do that whole thing. And so I did that, and I, you know, glanced at some of the lore stuff, and I'd paid attention to the cutscenes and mission dialogue, etc. But I wasn't going deep. I wasn't like trying to fill in the gaps that they left in some of the mission dialogue, which they, you know, they always do that because they're filling stuff out in many places. But now's the time. We've got the story done. We can go and read a book.
Yeah, have dinner and read a lore book.
That's it. Anyway, in terms of other story beats that are worth discussing, you mentioned the radial mast. So there's I want to say it's like mission 6, 5, 6, late campaign.
Yeah, 4, 5, 6.
So we spent some time getting to know Rohan and Nimbus, and then Rohan chooses to meet what Nimbus refers to as a Cloud Strider's end, which I guess is, like, it's a fairly poetic way of looking at it, but essentially something is happening with the radial mast that, you know, Rohan wants us to hit it with some strand, and we're in that weird exhausted hobble state. And so Rohan blows himself up in like a fairly spectacular fashion to
nukes himself
to destroy the radial mast. You know what? Thinking about it now, kind of like a cyanide tooth in a sense. Like, hey, I've got this like trigger that I can pull, and I'll blow myself up. No wonder if that is like
the cyanide pill in the armor, the glasses.
Yeah. One of the augments maybe is Big Bomb, but yeah, just like kind of blows himself up there, and then
the greater good.
Yeah. So I had joined you. Yeah, you were like 4 missions deep, and then it happened like maybe mission 5, mission 6.
over Rohan?
Yeah. So I got on that voice call, and you were like, man, I love Rohan, love that grizzled old man vibe. And then
I climb him like a spider monkey.
I had to stay silent because I knew you were about to watch him die. That is such a weird place to be.
He's like in the mission being a badass. I'm over here just being like, I'm going to climb that man.
Yeah, I want more Rohan.
Like, oh man, I want to touch his beard. Like just frothing over him.
Yes. And then
I want that man to wear me like a backpack.
You did say that. And then I had to like hear you react to that moment, and that was kind of like, it was heartbreaking in 2 ways, because one, I was like, yeah, I heard you get the like the weight of that moment, but also I got to relieve the lie that I had been telling you that I didn't know that was coming.
Just you being like, he is a big man. Yep, that's a big man.
Sure is.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Sure has the big tall man muscle vibes.
Yeah, oh boy, he is in fact grumpy.
There was like a few times where I almost said, sure would be a shame if something happened to him.
But at the same time, last week I called the veteran a day away from retirement trope too. So I kind of brought it on myself. I kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah.
There is a few lines where I was like, yeah, they're going to do the veteran I was a day away from retirement.
I'm gonna go out in some form of self-sacrifice, whatever that means. And then Nimbus
but it's an 80s cop movie trope, so or action movie trope. I'm not surprised they pulled it.
Yeah, I mean it's a classic for a reason, right? Pulls on the heartstrings a bit, and then Nimbus has to do the classic thing of like, well, I was just a rookie, now I'm the Cloud Strider, and no one calls me a rookie anymore, and I just have to know how to do this, and have to very quickly turn off that switch of, I'm just having fun, this is great, Rohan will tell me if I'm being an idiot. No, I'm now Rohan and Nimbus. Maybe he's Rhombus the whole time.
Oh, Rhombus. Yeah, I felt personally attacked by Rohan's fucking motto.
Oh,
the moment he was like headlong and empty-handed or something like that, headstrong, and I was like, "Wow,
very good."
That is my personality.
It's just a great way to encapsulate someone, because that's Rohan talking about Nimbus, of course.
It's about being, like not brutish, but like
I'm just gonna go in there and figure it out.
Stubborn and rambunctious and a risk taker and but just headlong and empty-handed. And I was like, huh, cool. I feel personally attacked by that. Because like headlong in general is like the way you would describe it is like you do things hastily without thought, or you plunge into things, or like you're rash. You don't deliberate before you do something. You just do it and then kind of wing your way through the situation.
Yeah.
Often by being stubborn and just headlong and empty-handed. And I was like, that's me.
Yeah, you rush into situations and you're going to figure it out, but you don't have any tools at your disposal.
Real life and in game. That's Uh-oh. And I was talking to a coworker who's known me a while, who also plays Destiny, and when I told him that, he was like, "Did you just get your next tattoo?" And I was like, "Oh shit, that'd be a really funny tattoo." Headlong and empty-handed.
That's pretty good. That's
because I do that. And you, like our friend group, just I end up in situations and I come out of them okay.
Yeah.
To this day, I don't know how I do it.
God damn.
And I do it in Destiny.
Yeah.
I charge in, Guardian down.
Yes, that does. And like you play a support warlock, you have no business being in there. What are you doing?
With my submachine gun.
You jump in there with a bow and a submachine gun and a well of radiance. Like, this was never going to work.
The fucking Nova bomb.
God damn. I think the only other big story bit worth mentioning is that we finally get to look at the veil, whatever that is.
What is the big booty hole?
We see it from the top, and I'm guessing from below as well.
From the top, make it drop. That's a big ass veil.
Yeah, good. From the top, it looks like
a plate. It looks like the discs that Mara, like, when the Awoken do stuff, and it has that radial kind of filigree imagery associated.
It's colored in a way that it feels like I'm having an acid trip, and it's moving. It's very strange and apparently incredibly powerful. And then we kind of like go under it and look back up at it, and it looks like a big old pod with like tentacles coming out. And I'm still not sure what's going on with that thing.
When we were pondering the orb, when we were doing the final mission, I was like, it kind of looks like the Traveler, but then it also kind of looks like a bulb, like garlic, or like a lily, or like a bulbous plant. Like, it looks like a plant bulb. Like, have you ever seen what orchids and lilies and stuff like grow from? Yeah, or an avocado.
With fingers.
And then it's got like a root system coming out of the bottom of it that fades off into nothing.
Yes.
And a big hole.
I still have a bunch of like question marks around like what it is. How is it powerful? etc. That's where I say, like, I'm planning to dig into some of the lore that I've got and will get before I don't know, make any kind of like judgments or have any strong opinions about the veil as a concept.
Just aesthetically, it makes sense to me because, like, if the traveler is associated with the gardener, the veil is associated with the seeds. Seeds are considered, other than like seeds and eggs, are considered the crux of life. Mm-hmm. Like, imagery wise,
yeah,
it all ties together. It's just fucking weird looking.
It is, yeah. Let's put a pin in that. I want to come back to the veil for some stuff that happens after this next thing, which is the Callus boss fight.
Yeah, with his teapot shoulders.
Yeah, his weird armor that looks like he's a train. But yeah, we're in like this big circular arena. There's like, again, some more strand stuff around. You have the option to just grab strand and use it for the fight if you want. It's kind of like you got the circle, you've got like an outer catwalk that goes around the thing with some platforms, bunch of enemies. There's some tormentors that spawn in at various points. What I'll say, and I do not mean this as a flex, way easier not on legendary. It took me I would have to go and see if I can find the stats if they're available, but I must have died 30, 40 plus times just trying to figure that fight out, to try and figure out a strategy that would work for me on solo and on legendary. But then when I joined you, it was like, yeah, that probably took us like 10 minutes to like.
Except for that one time we both grappled off the edge of the map synchronized.
That was like right after we started the fight. No, that was fine.
That was just funny. Just both of us. Woo!
Like, yeah. Oh. It like, as far as the like regular difficulty level goes, fairly kind of standard boss fight. You know, he's got some health gates and some transitions that he goes through. There's tormentors that spawn at a couple of those sort of points. For the legendary variant, I'm going to tell you my loadout because it ended up getting weird. I tried a lot of things. So for literally the entire campaign on solo legendary, I was running Solar Titan with throwing hammers so that I would get the recovery, like the health restoration that you get from those. Running Syntheseps so that the hammers do a lot of damage. I was running Xenophage just to like be able to lay some damage in there. That's my exotic weapon. Callus Mini Tool, good solar SMG, good for like a little bit of light crowd control with the perks I've got on it. And then what used to be called blinding grenades, but disorienting grenades in the kinetic slot. And boy, oh boy, the combination of disorienting grenades and throwing hammer got me through most things. Because it was just like, fire the grenade, run in, couple of throwing hammers, oh, my grenade launcher, auto-loading holster, it's ready to go again. Or I would fire the grenade as I'm running in, reload it, throwing hammer, rinse, repeat. That legitimately got me through most of that campaign until the final boss fight. Because one of the things I discovered, those little platforms on the outer edges of that arena, and there's kind of around it, there's like this like netting, essentially. You can stand on it. You have enough collision to not fall through that. But what does fall through it is a throwing hammer. So I kept fucking losing it. And then I would have to wait for it to recharge. And that's most of how I played that kind of combat scenario, right? So then I started changing weapons. I was like, okay, maybe I need to mix something up here. Do I go like Ward of Dawn plus Galahorn to just dump a bunch of damage and hope for the best? That didn't work because I did like the void abilities weren't giving me any health regen. They were giving me some overshield, but it wasn't as often as I needed it, like with the throwing hammer. Where I ended up, the thing that got me over the line was using Strand for one thing, because, like we mentioned before, able to get out of damage very quickly, but that Strand empowered state, fucking crucial. Like, so much damage is put out by Strand with that, and it is probably the most effective thing I had against tormentors. Like I would just pop the super, like suspend them, swipe at them about 4 or 5 times. That's a tormentor done. So I would save my super for when a tormentor spawned in, throw that at them, get out of the way of Callus. The thing, the weapon that got me there. One thing, heavy weapon retrofit escapade, the void machine gun from last season that I've crafted to have enhanced 4 times the charm, so that I'm getting bullets back, and enhanced target lock. So as I'm continually laying damage into a single target, the damage gets bigger. And so I would just open the fight by beaning Callus in the face with this machine gun until enemies spawned in. But the exotic weapon that legitimately did it for me was Quicksilver Storm.
Huh.
Because I would spend a lot of my time on those catwalks, right? You've got a bit of range. The Scions would spawn in the middle. And so I would just hit those guys with Quicksilver Storm to fill the gun with grenades, switch to the grenades, throw those at Callus. And each one of those was taking off a decent chunk, even on Legendary.
Yeah.
And you get 3 of them. And I basically put myself in the middle of the catwalk, so the 2 platforms either side of me were far enough away the enemies weren't hitting me. Or if they were, I was still keeping my health up enough to have it not be a problem. And that's what I did. And I was just like working my way through it, just chipping away at the health. And if I needed to move, I would, because I had the grapple. I could just swing around and I would swing in, get a tangle, throw the tangle. That's a good amount of damage if you make it explode on them. And it was a real puzzle. Like, and you know what the worst part was? The first time I did it, I was like, great, this is working. I've got a repeatable system here. And then you discover the entire second phase to that boss fight.
He locks you into a tiny arena.
Oh my god!
He's got big knives.
The first time I cleared that health bar, I was like, okay, cool. Hands off the mouse and keyboard. I'm done. Like back like this, like just trying to breathe, get the heart rate down. And then it's like joining allies 4, 3. I'm like, what the? And then I see health bar. There's a big dome. You got to be inside that. And Callus is now rushing you. Long story short, I basically just did the same thing, except all I was doing was running laps. I was running laps, just like trying to build up charge in Quicksilver Storm, trying to take out the Tormentors when they would spawn, and just fucking hoping for the best. And the relief I felt in my bones when Callus had like this much health and I had 3 grenades charged in Quicksilver. I was like, you're done. And I knew at that point, I was like, I'm going to grapple, I'm going to be up in the air, I'm going to sling these grenades at you. I spent most of the time just like jumping in a circle. Just grenade, grenade. Okay, shoot you in the head for a bit. Grenade, grenade, grenade. And that was the loop. And it was surprising. I tried all of my usual tricks, you know, Titan Bubble, Galahorn, just about every combination of like exotic armor and weapon that I like to put together. And what it ended up being was an exotic weapon that was a pre-order bonus that I've barely used and now has a catalyst. So I've almost completed the catalyst.
I think the funniest thing about running that with you is the first time we did it, I was like, I don't like how easy this is. And you just laughed.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't trust how easy this is.
Yeah, because I just melted that first phase.
Yeah. I hear you laugh and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried
because I was like laying into him and I was like, this is going too quickly.
I tried to play it off as like, oh, there's 2 of us and we're not doing it on Legendary. But there was no way after what I'd gone through that I could really mask that and be like, oh yeah, no, this is just how it is.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't trust how quickly we're melting him. Yeah. And you're just like,
yeah, like
I was like, no.
It's a little bit, it felt like a little bit of a cheat trick because we don't see like 2 health bar bosses ever. I can't think of one that doesn't go through like some drawn out transition or cutscene or something between those states. This was just like immediately do it all over again.
Yeah. This time he's got big knives that one hit you and tormentors. Yay!
Yeah, bulk tormentors. But yeah, it was the thing that the realization, conclusion, opinion that I've kind of come to is like I never did the Witch Queen Legendary solo. the campaign. I did it with friends. It was basically the only way I could get through it. I tried to do it solo, and then it honestly got too hard, and maybe it's got too hard for where I was then as a player. This, basically the whole way through, was it felt incredibly manageable. It felt like, yeah, everything is kind of challenging, but the way that I've built with the hammers and the disorienting grenades, like, kind of didn't neutralize that difference, but it like gave me room to breathe, of just like, oh, I know the hammer is going to give me health back, and I know that these grenades are going to like slow everything down a bit. And, you know, having that build ready to go helped, but also like just the general balance and difficulty level, it felt pretty good. And a lot of it felt like a really good puzzle of like, oh, I get what's happening. I get the mechanic. I get what these enemies do. And then the only thing that really challenged me was that Callus boss fight, because it was just pretty different to a lot of everything else that you encounter through the story. But yeah, hard recommend use Stranded every opportunity during the campaign, because you get that empowered state and it makes it so good.
And it's fun.
It is fun.
It's super fun.
Yeah, many goofy times ahead, I'm sure.
Just clicking through our show notes to see if there's anything major we missed, except for the picture you sent me of Rohan's ass.
Yeah, that was me realizing I'm standing behind him and his ass is just
I'm
here.
in this man's booty hole.
Yes.
Sneaky booty hole.
Shit. The fairly big thing we neglected to mention. Nezarec is just back, it seems.
Yeah, good old fucking... What was the thing that I called him?
Mr. Jamjar?
Jamjar.
Jamjar Jones.
Yeah, because we were running the strike, and that strike is so pretty and so fun. Yes. Like a nice little quick strike.
Yeah.
But good old Jamjar, well, leading up to that, they talk about the Neomuni complaining that they're having nightmares, like and voices. One name that is, and hearing voices, and one name that is common to all of the Neomuni who have reported these nightmare and these voices are Nezarec.
Yeah.
And I went, well, we made him into coffee.
Yeah. And that's like one of the radio transmissions after like the 4th mission. So you're halfway through the story and they just drop that in there. Yeah.
So I was like, huh. And then we started running the strike, and there's this deep, luminous voice that talks about terror. And then I was like, is that who I think it is? And you're like, who do you think it is? I'm like, is that Jamjar? And you were just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Good old Nez Cafe. Coffee pot. So he's coming back or being illusioned to being back, which is what makes me suspect he's going to be in the raid.
Yeah, that's kind of...
They might not pull an obvious punch like that. Like it'll be like Rolk, where they're just like, whoop.
I think either he's central to the raid, or it's going to be some kind of slow build throughout this year of Destiny, of like a
seasonal climax, kind of.
Or like the way that Savathun was kind of built up before Witch Queen. Like, I'm not necessarily saying Nezarec will be in the final shape in some form, but like that kind of gradual thing where it's like, we've definitely explicitly introduced that this is Nezarec, and they've identified themselves.
It's now where they come in.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. And I don't know that we've ever seen enough of Nezarec's aesthetic to know if that image they put up with the raid name is that vibe.
Nezarec's jam, yeah.
That's pretty good.
Pun totally intended.
Yes. So yeah, we'll wait and see for next weekend, I guess, if that is a Nezarec raid. The name Root of Nightmares, if anything, for me, it harkens back to like the nightmare stuff we saw play out with, Season of the Haunted and all of that. I can't remember if that was like Nezarec related or if that came later.
It's hard to say because in that voice line I just read out, they say the citizens have experienced nightmares.
Yeah. So
one common to all Nezarec.
And if we're saying they've all had it and this is the root of them.
And he also says in that raid, I am terror, I am
pain. something like that.
Yeah, I am Nezarec, so... Yeah.
Smart money's on raid boss.
Getting spicy.
We'll see. We'll see, because I don't personally know a lot about Nezarec and why we should be afraid of them.
Be scary.
Cool. Good enough for me.
A smudge stick won't keep him away.
Yes. Yeah, the only other thing, you want to talk about big lore stuff we missed, the, like, end of story cutscene. So this idea of, like, the Veil creating a link to the Traveler does happen. Turns out the Witness is doing it through our ghost.
Yeah, so you beat Callus and everyone's like, whoop whoop. Kaido's like, oh man, I wish I'd done it, but like at least he's fucking gone, thank God. And then actually just quickly on that, I kind of feel bad that the Guardians took that moment from Kaido.
Yeah. But
I feel like it's one of those things Kaido would have preferred to have done by her own hand.
Yeah, but she was like initially out there fighting Callus. Like that was why she stayed outside the building.
Yeah.
And then he broke through, got away.
But so it's all like hell yeah, and then everyone's just standing around looking at the Veil, just like, so this is the Veil.
This is weird.
And then the ghost, your ghost, the light starts talking in the witness's voice.
And there was another moment in the story where that
earlier on that
happens. Yeah.
And then starts drifting up as if it's going to go into the Veil.
I have to pause at this moment because the gravity of it was somewhat undercut for me, because the ghost shell that I use is the one where the ghost is a little boat with the sailor's hat on the top. So it's incredibly goofy that this little boat is just drifting up.
Yeah, it's really funny when yours is the voice of the glam. But something that was big for me that I noticed was how willing our Guardian was
to destroy it.
To destroy their own ghost, knowing what that would mean. They had them lined up in their sights, and were willing to take them out, which is huge. It's like your Guardian is just like, it has to be done.
Yeah.
Like I need to sacrifice my position as a Guardian for the universe.
But
lose all my abilities.
Still hesitates.
That's huge. That's heavy.
Hesitates just long enough that it still goes. But like the link still happens. It still
the link
works.
Happens. Yeah.
Then Nimbus flies through the sky, grabs it, comes down, crashes into the ground, and then like I screenshot this moment because of the ghost shell. It's very funny. It like opens his hand, lets the ghost float back up, and the ghost is like, "Wait, what happened?" And for me, it's like this little boat coming out of his hands. I'm like, yeah, this is silly. Shouldn't be doing this. What I would secretly love is if Destiny gave you an option to just play any cutscene with your current loadout or build or transmog. So you could just be like, I want to see what this cutscene looks like if I put this ghost shell on. And it's just goofy.
Yeah, so the link has been made.
It's like a big old beam that kind of shoots up out of Neptune into the Traveler, right?
Into it or in front of it.
Yeah, it does like kind of just hit a point on the surface,
like a pinpoint, and then the Witness is like, mischief is afoot.
Makes a big
That's exactly what he said.
Makes a big old triangle in the front of it.
He went, mischief is afoot.
Yes.
He broke character. Just gaslight the audience who are sitting through all these spoilers, just being like, "Wow, that's insane!" And then
like
they get there.
The chicken dance, like
he does the Fortnite L dance at the Traveler, and then turns around and does it at everyone in the helm.
Might as well.
That's a baller.
Yes, we're going long, so I'm trying to get through the scene.
So he
makes
a big triangle into it.
Well. You say
in front of it?
Yeah, you say cut because it looks like it's cutting it into the surface, but then there's a shot.
And it opens like a portal.
Well, there's a shot later, kind of almost top down, where this triangle portal that he's creating. They're creating. It looks like it's hovering just in front of the Traveler, and But yeah, the surface of this triangle looks similar to that top view we get of the Veil, where it's like this weird kind of plasma looking multicolored
rainbow
situation.
Kind of, yeah.
And then there's like 2 or 3 pyramid ships in the shot that kind of get like weirdly sucked into it, and then the Witness just kind of drifts through it as well. And then that triangle thing stays there, and then when you go to the like director screen after, it's there on the little picture of the Traveler in the middle. And there's like one of the lines we get, I think from Zavala or someone we talked to after that cutscene, is essentially that we don't know where they went.
Yeah, we don't know what the fuck that is. We don't know if it's a portal to somewhere else or into the Traveler. Like, they're just like, we don't know what this fucking pink triangle is.
And there's something I think we get talking to Nimbus or someone after that, which essentially says like the Vex, all these Vex are on Neptune, they had kind of created a copy of sorts of what the Veil is. And so they're hoping to like use that to work out all of what just happened. So I'm kind of hoping we get like some juicy lore trapped in the post story part of the expansion. Stay tuned for whether or not that's true.
Yeah.
But my question is, why don't we just go through that fucking thing as well?
Because I mean, that's probably what's going to happen eventually.
Yeah, but maybe, I mean, to be fair, we don't know if we could or if we would just die.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of uncertainty. Obviously, before they send us through or go through themselves, you know, Ikora, Mara, Zavala.
They have to do some math.
They got to figure it out. Yeah. Osiris got to do some Egyptian math.
Yeah.
Some hieroglyphics. But yeah, the conversations you have in the tower after, like it, for once in the entirety of Destiny, Zavala's faith has faltered.
Yeah. Yep.
He is now less like at the end of the season, after Red sacrifices himself and the Traveler's hovering just outside orbit, he's still very like, we're going to do this. We're going to figure it out. We're going to be the Witness. We've got the Traveler.
Squad, gang. Let's go get it.
We've got the tower. But now he's just like,
What now?
The Traveler was my god. And it's like, this is the end. Like, these are the end. The end is nigh. Like, he's a week away from walking around with one of those fucking sandwich boards on.
He says something to the effect of, like, I no longer have a god to put my faith in.
Yeah.
Which is both, like, pessimistic and optimistic at the same time. Because it's like, yeah, that's dark as hell. But also he's saying, I still have faith. I just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. And then the flip side is, Ikora last 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, season end, when you talk to her after Rasputin sacrifices himself, she's very much, the collapse is coming, we're fucked. The Witness, the Hidden have been whispering back to me and just saying the collapse has already started, we're fucked, like there's nothing we can do. But now when you talk to her, she's like, you know, we don't know what the Witness, like she seems to be a little bit more like, hey, we've got these new abilities. We still technically have the Traveler. We're still here. We can still fight. Like, it's weird how that flipped because last week she was like, kiss your loved ones. This is it.
Fucking peace out. I'm off to war. Yeah.
And then this week she's like, we are still here. We still have each other. We can still figure this out. We just need to figure out what the fuck the Witness is doing and what that triangle is.
Yeah.
And what we can do. Yeah. And if we can go with them or like what, you know, it's just so weird how the roles reversed where Zavala's like, well, kiss your homies on the forehead because this is it. And Ikora's like, well, we're all still here and you've got a new ability and we've made new friends on Neptune. So like, and we know where the Veil is now. So I just thought it was super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except for, I will just say my only negative comment. The animation on Ikora is off. So she's having this big, deep, meaningful conversation, and when you look back on it, she's smiling. Like her character model is like, I don't know if it's just something that slipped through, but it was kind of jarring.
Yeah.
She's like, you know, things are really dire, but she's like, and I was like, that's funny. Like she's like, we're gonna make it, guys.
It's also very funny
through the tears.
It's also very funny. This is going to be in the video. You have just completely frozen up. I can still hear you, but
I'm smiling.
Yeah, no, like you're like frozen like this.
My character model's glitched.
It super has, and like my network is fine, so like I don't know what's happening. It's probably a good time. It's probably a good sign that we should end because like we have been recording pretty much for a good 2 hours and a bit.
That's really all that's happened. So oh my God. We've pretty much hit the end note.
Yes. Cool. All right. What is going on with your video? I cannot with this. What have I done? That's going to look weird later. Great. That's super helpful. I'm just going to turn your video on. Let's see if it's fixed. Oh, no. Discord. What is happening?
Hello.
Ah,
okay.
What's happening with your video? Oh, this is super janky. We should get out of here. I'm just gonna leave this in. It's a good look into our lives.
Welcome to Australia.
Yes, the internet
sometimes
is fucked.
Your network just drops.
Okay, that's been a lot.
Yeah,
there's plenty more we still have to figure out. Thank you for sticking with us through this long, rambly, I don't know, this long one. It's a long one. We'll be back soon.
No, it's a whole one.
Good.
I've been Carlos Santana. You've been listening to ECP.
You've been Carlos Santana. I've been Rob Thomas. Stay smooth. I don't feel good with that. Thank you for watching, for sticking around. Hit all the things. Do the YouTube. Do the thing that you're meant to do as a good YouTube audience member, which is click some buttons, apparently.
Like, comment, survive.
Yeah, you've frozen up again, so let's just get out of here. We'll see you next time.
Maybe. I might be frozen forever.
I mean, I'm waving for the both of us at this point. Ciao.
Goodbye.